Hello and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be talking about the state of Georgia, a state that I believe is a ticking time bomb for the Republican Party. So back in 2024, Donald Trump won the state of Georgia by 2.2 percentage points after Joe Biden had previously carried Georgia by a quarter of a percentage point back in 2020. Now, on the surface level, this may seem like a good result for the Republican Party. Trump flips Georgia in 2024, but if you dig deeper, these results are not nearly as good as Republicans would have liked, and we're going to dig deep into that, and we're going to explain why. So, if you look at the 2024 swing map, this shows you how each state swung from 2020 to 2024, and as you can see, every state in the union swung towards the Republican Party, and the national popular vote as a whole swung 6 points to the Republican Party, because remember, Joe Biden won the popular vote by 4.5 points in 2020, and in 2024 Trump won the popular vote by 1.5 points. So that's a 6-point swing towards the Republicans. But specifically in the state of Georgia, Georgia swung 2.4% towards the Republicans, so the swing in Georgia was a lot less than the nationwide swing. So even though Georgia did swing to the right, relative to the nation as a whole, Georgia did trend to the left. And we can see if we look at Georgia's countywide results, although in some of these rural areas, yes, there were bigger swings towards Trump. You'll see 5, 6, 7, 8-point swings. In some of these suburban counties, like Douglas County, like Henry County, we've still saw big swings towards Kamala Harris, even though the nation as a whole swung 6 points towards Trump. Well, what does this mean? It tells us that changing demographics in the Atlanta metro area, they are substantially benefiting Democrats. Even though we had a much redder national environment, a lot of these areas in the Atlanta metro area got bluer. And that is a large part of the reason why Trump only won Georgia by 2 points rather than 4 or 5 points. And this is a very worrying trend for the Republican Party, because let's compare the 2012 results to 2024. Georgia swung 5.6 points towards the Democrats in 12 years from 2012 to 2024. Now remember, in 2012, Barack Obama, he won the national popular vote by 3.9%. In 2024, Trump won the national popular vote by 1.5%. That's a 5.4% swing towards Republicans nationwide. However, even though the nation swung over 5 points towards Republicans since 2012, Georgia swung over 5 points towards Democrats since 2012. So again, even though the environment got redder, Georgia has consistently been getting bluer. And if we look at the 2020 U.S. Senate results, remember, in November of 2020, Joe Biden carried Georgia by a quarter of a percentage point, and then in the January runoffs, Jon Ossoff won by over a point, Raphael Warnock won by over 2 points. And then in 2022, when Warnock was up for re-election, even though the incumbent Republican governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, he won by over 7 percentage points, Warnock still won by nearly 3 points. And kind of going back to the 2012 to 2024 comparison, if we compare how Georgia voted for president relative to the national popular vote, we will see some pretty interesting numbers. So back in 2008, if we look at the 2008 elections, you will see that in 2008, when McCain won Georgia by over 5 points, relative to the national popular vote, Georgia voted 12.5 points to the right of the popular vote. In 2012, when Romney won Georgia by 7.8%, Georgia voted 11.7 points to the right of the national popular vote. In 2016, when Trump won Georgia by 5 points, Georgia voted 7.2% to the right of the national popular vote. And then in 2020, when Joe Biden flipped Georgia, carrying it by 1/4 of a percentage point, Georgia voted 4.2 percentage points to the right of the national popular vote. And then finally in 2024, when Trump flipped Georgia back, Georgia only voted 0.7% to the right of the national popular vote. So remember, back in 2008, Georgia voted over 12 points to the right of the nation, but in 2024, Georgia voted less than 1 point to the right of the nation. So what that's been telling us is that Georgia has consistently been trending to the left, and it is very likely that based upon these trends, which have lasted well over a decade, that in 2028, Georgia will vote to the left of the nation. So what does that mean? If the national popular vote is tied in 2028 and Georgia votes 2 points to the left of the nation, well, the Democrats would still win Georgia by several points even if the popular vote is tied. Let's say that Georgia votes 3 points to the left of the nation in 2028. If the Democrats lose the national popular vote by 2 points in 2028, which is more than they lost by in 2024, well, the Democrats, they still win Georgia by a percentage point. So even if the nation gets redder, Georgia still gets bluer relative to the nation. So Georgia, at this rate, by the end of the 2030s, I think Georgia is going to follow the path of Colorado, where it starts out as a red-leaning swing state and then gradually it becomes a reliably blue state. I mean, we saw this with Colorado. In 2004, Bush won by nearly 5 points. Then Obama wins by 9 points. Obama carries it again by over 5. Hillary Clinton wins it by 5. Then Biden wins here by 13.5. And then finally, Kamala Harris wins here by 11 points. I think Georgia, at this rate, with how the changing demographics have affected the Atlanta metro area, I think Georgia is on pace to follow the path of Colorado, where it's a red-leaning swing state, but over time it becomes a reliably Democratic state. And Republicans, this is a really tough situation for them because there's really not a lot you can do about this situation besides try and appeal to these new voters that are moving into the Atlanta area. And considering the fact that the 2026 midterms, they are going to likely, at this rate, it seems like it's on track to be a blue wave year. Georgia has an incumbent Democratic senator that's up for re-election, Jon Ossoff. He won by over 1 point in the 2021 runoff, and he's on pace to win pretty easily in 2026. His Republican opponents, in all the polling that has been done in this race, we can see that he has consistently led against John King and Buddy Carter, both who have declared they're going to run against Jon Ossoff. And the one opponent that he was losing to in polling, Brian Kemp, the incumbent governor, he said he's not running for the U.S. Senate. So not only could the Democrats comfortably hold on to Georgia's U.S. Senate race, in the governorship, this is an open seat with Brian Kemp being term limited. And we've got 2 potential Republican candidates, Chris Carr and Burt Jones, but they don't have an incumbency advantage. And so the Democrats, they very possibly could flip Georgia's governorship in 2026 with Lucy McBath. So with all of that being said, my main point here is, even though the nation did move towards the Republicans in 2024, Georgia, it is a ticking time bomb for the Republicans. And if I were Georgia Democrats, I would be at the very least cautiously optimistic going into 2026 and 2028. So if you guys did enjoy, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you don't miss a future upload. Let's get to 200 subscribers, and please feel free to comment your suggestions and video ideas and your thoughts in the comments section, and I will see you all in the next video.